Right, welcome everyone. My name's Jed. I'm one of the conveners here today. Juanita's standing in the middle. We have name tags on just to let you know. As well, anyone else that's wearing a name tag or a button is probably one of your candidates that you are wanting to talk to. So just as we get going, regrets are coming from Robert Latimer. He couldn't make it tonight. So he's kind of bummed out about that, but all of us have to work and all of us have to eat sometimes, right? So he just couldn't make it. So just to review for our format, what's going to happen is we're going to have each of the individual candidates come up and give a short speech, introduction, who they are, why they're running. Maybe some of them are just coming up, tell jokes. I don't know. That's up to them. That's their speeches. Okay? And then shortly after that, once that is complete, we'll be kind of breaking up a bit and you have a chance to talk to individual candidates. Originally, we had planned on a question and answer period, but we calculated that we would get a maximum 4 questions in without being here till tomorrow, and none of us really wants that. So we want to encourage that. And why do we have this format as well is it kind of matches us more in Northern Ontario and facing people. It's real easy when we don't see people as they are, human beings. And every one of these people here that is running is a human being. And sometimes we forget that, especially on the internet. I know I have been guilty of labeling people as something or other that way. In fact, my best lesson for that happened about 20 years ago, I'll say. And there was a very well-known politician at the time who was running for leadership of his party. You can ask me about who it was later. I'll just let you know that you either liked him or you hated him. And I was in Tim Hortons in a lineup, just me and a buddy, as my wife was finishing a shift at work, and I'm drinking my coffee. Actually, I wasn't even drinking my coffee, I was ordering my coffee, and I look behind me, and there's that politician. And 2 bouncer type guys, all dressed in suits. And I made a discovery that night. That discovery was, that politician drank a double-double just like me. He's a human being. And I still have to remind myself of that. And so tonight, that's part of why I want to encourage you to connect with one another. As well, you might have some questions, and the candidate that you're wanting to talk to might be really busy. I'd also encourage everyone here, it's been a while since we've been together for a lot of people. And there's a lot of new people in this community, and there's a lot of people that have been here a lot of years. I'm going to encourage everyone to just try to get to know 3 other people, maybe that you've never met here before. And I know for me, I'm already there, so I got my quota. But I just want to encourage everyone to do that. Okay, that's everything. I just looked at my notes, and my story was shorter. See, Debbie was concerned because she's like, I don't know if I'm going to go long. I had at least another 5 minutes when I practiced. So, okay, she's only got a book. As well, I will be recording the Speeches Connect part and posting it on my YouTube channel, which this will be the only video on that channel, and it'll be Jed Gorham is my YouTube channel, which is my full name, and I'll make sure to post it for those that are on sites like Calvin Convo or the brighter side of Calvin, whatever's out there. I'll try to make it available. I'll make it available to the candidates so they can post it that way as well, because we want to be as open and transparent as we possibly can. If you feel like you need to get up and have a coffee, go ahead. There's coffee and tea at the back, and let's try to enjoy the evening. So let's begin. I'm going to begin with, where's Juanita? She's
Right
supposed
here.
to help me.
Right here.
Oh, so who are we starting with, Juanita?
We're going to start with the mayors.
We're going to start with the 2 mayors,
And it's Richard Gould.
and it's in alphabetical order, my last name. So Richard Gould, you get to start, and just give me a few minutes as I readjust the camera.
Sure. Well, listen, thank you all for coming out tonight and taking an interest in Calvin politics. Really appreciate the interest. My name is Richard Gould. Charlotte and I have lived in Calvin for 4 decades, and we chose Calvin as an ideal location to raise a family. So we're all proud Calvinites. I'm asking for your support in my bid for mayor because I want to help. I believe there are pressing issues right now, but I think there are even more important issues that are coming up in the next 4 to 8 years that we really have to deal with. Canada is a big country. It's the 2nd largest in the world, and it contains a very diverse population. As a result, We have 10 provinces and 3 territories, all with their own regional governments. We do this because each of those areas have different needs, different rules, different regulations that relate to the area that they govern. You wouldn't expect council in Nova Scotia to make laws for Saskatchewan about fishing. You wouldn't expect educational policies to go into Alberta made in Quebec. They all have their own regulations that serve the people in the area that they take care of. The same is true of municipalities. Each municipality is different, and it has its own identity, its own character, and therefore it needs its own government. Unfortunately, there's a move afoot to standardize all municipalities and make them all have the same regulations and the same bylaws. This makes sense for companies like E4M because it's easier to deal with a group of municipalities that all have the same regulations and the same bylaws. It's easier for a bylaw enforcement officer who covers a number of municipalities to have everyone have the same bylaws, rather than having to learn different bylaws for each municipality. But politically, it makes no sense. The reason we have municipal governments is to address the local needs and requirements of the people who live in those regions. Us, you people. Recently, there was a community standards bylaw brought before council. That community standards bylaw was looked at as taking one from East Ferris or taking one from Papineau Cameron. Those 2 community standards bylaws had a whole mass of items in them. One item that was stated was that a resident who has a driveway that reaches a municipal road must have that driveway either paved, interlocking stone, or crushed gravel. Now, the idea of doing that probably came from a municipality somewhere in the province that had nothing but paved streets. And it was to their advantage to not have mud tracked across the paved streets from people who parked in front lawns because their driveway was overfilled. But it would make no sense in Calvin Township. In fact, it would be damaging to require residents to pave their driveways so that they can enter a gravel road or a cold top highway. Both of the suggested community standards were long. They were multiple page documents, and one person on council said they didn't have time to read through all the items. Well, I better speed up then. But a bylaw is a bylaw, and it is a law, and it must be equally applied, and it must be fair. And if you can't have time to read a bylaw, then don't vote on it and don't pass it. I recently attended the candidates meeting in Mattawa. 3 candidates let it be known that they will push to annex adjoining municipalities. Mattawa needs more land to expand for their commercial and industrial tax base. We must have a strong independent municipality or we could be annexed. We must be aware of our residents, our character, our culture, and we must work together. We need to strive for a united front in Calvin. Whomever is elected from all of these people, we need to work together because we need unity now more than ever before. And we need to be compassionate because Calvin residents need to be understood and to be heard. Above all, we need to listen. I hope that this group will put Calvin residents first in everything they do, because in the last few years, our social fabric has been stretched thin. Secrecy needs to be replaced with transparency, and information has to be shared. With unity, there is dignity. With unity, there is strength. With unity, there is prosperity. We need to work together. Thank you.
For those who don't know me, my name is Pennell. I'm currently the mayor of the municipality. My objectives in the next election and the next term are to continue to proudly serve the people of Calvin Township as their mayor. My priorities include operational transparency, and progressively advancing any economic or tourism development projects that will keep taxes at a minimum while creating new tax revenues for the municipality. And I look forward to serving another term as mayor of this beautiful township. My personal experience, I've been on council now for 16 years. 2 of those terms I was deputy mayor, and the last term mayor. I've also gained a lot of political experience during that period of time. I've also worked in many private sector positions, which enabled me to understand other people's objectives and how they might view things. Some of the jobs that I've held include like truck driver, skidder operator, restaurant manager, call center manager, childcare worker, metal fabricator, miner in both Manitoba and Ontario, taxi driver, school bus driver, and a lot of other things. These disciplines have provided me with an opportunity to gain valuable life experiences and make me a better political candidate, I believe. Other township priorities. I'd like to maintain the excellent service levels that our residents currently enjoy by not only keeping tax increases to a minimum, but by investing in such things as additional recycling opportunities that could increase revenues for our municipality. We must also focus on application process for the available government grants and other revenue sources that may be available to our municipality. These will allow us the ability to develop and improve our municipal services and infrastructure without levying a tax increase. Accomplishments in the last term. In the last term of council, we've completed upgrades to both the fire hall and the roads garage. We've also purchased a new fire truck, and with the help of a provincial grant, we purchased a much needed grader for the roads. Upgrades were also completed at the township hall, which included washroom renovations, adding air conditioning. Because we are a disaster center here, we need to be able to have those facilities in case something would happen. We have wheelchair access now, and we've drilled a new well. Drilling a new well has provided us with an abundant supply of good water, and we no longer have to tank in potable water from Sturgeon Falls or North Bay. Stop letting us do that. So in conclusion, I feel we need to build the tomorrow by working together today, and I ask for your support to do so. Thank you.
Well, definitely the microphone is a little too high, but that's okay. I think you can hear me. Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I want to thank Juanita, Pastor Jed, the Calvin Hall, and all of you here tonight, every one of you, and my worthy opponent, Erika. As a lifelong resident of the Mattawa area, I am honored and grateful to have served my community as the current public school board trustee, and I am very excited to announce my candidacy for the next 4 years. My formative years and adult life have been rooted here in this area through attending public education, being part of the family business in Mattawa, Edward's Funeral Home and Matter Recorder, as well as building Gagne's Red and White with my husband Jerry of 50 years, way back there in the corner. I am deeply connected to the protection and cultivation of Mother Earth and respect the Indigenous lands and cultures. I have raised 4 children and continue to support and nurture 7 grandchildren. My goal for the next 4 years is to foster empowerment and diversity through respecting the intersectionality of all members of our community. Students should feel heard and safe, protected and supported in the public school system and need someone to advocate for their rights to the same quality education and support as those in the larger communities. My vast life experience has always been on improving the lives of community members and have for 50 years demonstrated active participation in supporting Northern Ontario through education, economic development, and the arts. This experience will help me advocate for current and future learners in the Zone 2. I consider this designation an honor and a privilege, and an important part of who I am and who I have been my entire life. On October 24th, I will ask for your support for Public School Board Trustee, and I will work very hard for the children. Thank you.
Code once that people are really hard to hate when we're up close, right? And when you do see people one-on-one and you do get a chance to hang out together, it's a lot easier to find common ground. So especially in today's political climate, right? I want to say thank you to everyone who's come out tonight for putting your name on the ballot. Again, my name is Erika Lougheed. I'm actually a current municipal councillor in East Ferris. I know some of you from that world. And I ran not knowing anybody really from East Ferris at the time, and I knocked on everyone's door. And I beat, who's now my colleague, but and friend, but I beat a long-term councillor. So these things are very possible, and I wish you all the best of luck. But yes, I'm a councillor in East Ferris. I'm an artist as well. I work for Canada Post as a postie. I'm a parent of 2 young children in the school system right now, and I care deeply about their future. I also had to go through the last few years of school and education in a rural community, for those of you who felt the pain of online learning and trying to navigate that. I'm also your former NDP candidate from the last provincial election, in case my name rings a bell. Another thing too is that I was a former wilderness guide for years. I still am, still often get hired. I've paddled all throughout your waterways and all the way up to the north, up to James Bay. And that's something that really forms my politics and policies, just so you have an idea, a little bit more about my background. But my council work, for those of you who know about East Ferris, we work really well together. It's something that's a huge priority. And I'm well known as being a person who connects with people, who works really hard to find common ground. If you speak to anybody from Masterville or Corbeil, they'll know me as that. And even when things are really tough, even when we don't agree, we find ways to figure it out. And often when I get an angry email, I'll just go over and drive to people's houses and show up at their front door and figure it out. But I am running because I am very passionate about public education. I believe strongly that when we invest upstream in people's lives, so upstream before things get acute and chaotic, we create communities that are really strong. We create communities that people are proud to be from. We create communities that people want to move to and raise their children. And public education is a key part of that, because right now, one of the biggest motivators for me running is the fact that rural and northern schools are at an unbelievable disadvantage to the rest of Ontario because of the funding model. And it is true, it is an important position, and the reason why it is that, did you know that the school board has a higher operating budget than the city of North Bay? So you should care about that. It is a very important position in your community. And in order for you to make sure that you keep your schools and you make sure that your students stay in your schools, we need to address that funding model. And that's one of my top priorities. The other thing is I want to make sure that the needs of our children in the future with respect to diversity, with respect to climate change, are reflected, reflected in our board policies and procedures. I also know that the past few years were really tough on students, and we're going to have to work really hard to make sure that schools are that bubble where we can control, right? We can control a lot in those 4 walls, where students feel safe coming to and that their needs are met. Because right now, outside of those 4 walls, it's not that easy right now for a lot of families. I still get phone calls, even though I'm not an elected official in the provincial level. I still get phone calls from people telling me about how they're struggling to make ends meet. I heard in Mattawa, when I was at the Mattawa council event, that people are not doing well. And so we need to make sure that schools are the place where students feel safe, comfortable, and their needs, social and environmental, are met. The next 4 years are going to be important. There's some tough times, but I have hope. And I think that when we work together, we can achieve a lot. So I'm open to chat anytime. I do hope you take school board elections very seriously. And thank you very much for the opportunity, Jed.
Neighbors, fellow taxpayers of our community, I'm going to begin with a short introduction and a brief history about myself. For those that don't know me, I'm Debbie Adams, and I live at 2467 Peddlers up the road here. I've been a taxpayer in this township since 1974. for 48 years, and I've seen several changes take place over those years. We also had 4 children in the community, one of which has lived in the community for the past 20 years. My education consists of a 4-year business administration accounting diploma from Canadore and a 2-year property management course from Ottawa U. I managed nonprofit and co-op housing in North Bay for 25 years through contracts in which I had 3 employees hired. The reason that I've decided to run for this election is the last year I lost my partner of 50 years, and I now have the time and attention required to fulfill that position. And with everything that's been happening within the township this past term, it's definitely time to see some new people, fresh ideas, new energy. I'm a team player, but I'm also going to tell you I'm a very independent thinker. With the recent decisions that have been made by the current council, I feel that there's a lot of frustration, anxiety, and turmoil between the taxpayer and the council. I'd like to see this brought back to being harmony between both taxpayers and council. Some of the issues I wanted to address is the transparency. The taxpayers have the right to know where their dollar is being spent and what major issues that the council is facing. The other thing is the services of E4M. I'm a little green at this, so what is their role in my township? Is there a contract, if any? And what is it costing me? Other major issues are to staff our office, which is the backbone of our community, both for the councillors and the taxpayers. I believe every department should be looked at, and I would like to see this township brought back to a happy, healthy place to reside in, encouraging development and utilizing grants when available. So on the 24th, I'm going to ask, please vote for Debbie Adams. Thank you.
First, I want to thank everyone for coming out, and also Vanette and Jed for organizing this get-together. If I'm stumbling every once in a while, yes, I'm nervous. You can bet your sweet patoonie that I'm nervous. Allow me to introduce myself first. For those that have not seen me at the meetings when we were streaming them, my name is Bart Castelyn, and I was appointed to council in December 2021, and I'm running as councillor for the next term. I was born in Amsterdam, you can hear that on my accent, in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and emigrated to Canada in 1981 at age 35 with my wife and 2.5 children. My wife was pregnant at that time, so that's why that happened. We became citizens in 1985. We have lived in Mississauga, Bramalea and Tottenham before finding our forever home here in Calvin in 2007. The company I worked for, Fujitsu Consulting, closed the department I was working for, and I was laid off at age 68, now 8 years ago. Since then, I have enjoyed retirement. Being retired gives me time to do research pertaining to Calvin Council business, and most of the time I base my opinions on the findings of such research. The provincial government, as you know, is an excellent source of that information. Since November 2014, I have followed all but 5 council meetings either in person or via Zoom or YouTube. The financial future of Calvin Township may be a challenging one, as there are very few possibilities to increase our tax base from an industrial expansion with the future 4-laning of Highway 17 and half-load roads on part of the year, reducing reliable access to industrial settlements. Our municipal expenditures are mainly covered by residential taxation, a small industrial tax base, a contribution by the pipeline that is decreasing relative to overall taxes due to changing assessments, and you can ask me about that later, plus provincial government grants that have also been greatly reduced over the years. A very large portion of our budget goes to fixed expenses such as policing, social services, conservation authority, castle home, and others. We have very little influence on the amounts of these levies. Maintaining our current services must be a primary goal for Calvin, and it may only be able to do so by increasing residential development and tourism. Residential development especially, because that would spread the burden more than anything else. Council has had its challenges in the past years by an unexpected clerical and council member turnover, and next council must work to stabilize that environment. The first steps in that direction have already been made, even though it has proven to be extremely difficult to attract qualified candidates for several reasons currently outside control of present council. In the next term of council, I would encourage the municipality to seek even more and closer cooperation with neighboring municipalities to share services wherever possible. Calvin residents have responded to a survey that identified a few priorities that Calvin should concentrate on, but it cannot be said often enough that some, if not most of them, will cost dearly. Calvin, as a very small community, does currently not have the tax base for large infrastructure projects, and we can only be grateful for the amenities we do have. That is why efforts of such organizations who operate independent from council and the municipality, like the Calvin Women Association, are so important to raise funds for those wants projects. The municipal budget must include a 5-year vision with projected costing so that either fundraising or reserves can be built for the envisioned projects over time. Rome was not built in one day either. I consider municipal bylaws to be live and not static documents that need revision from time to time to accommodate a changing municipal character. Amendments should always be possible when allowed for by provincial law. Of course, there's much more to be said, but I do not want to get too long-winded. Many of my statements require further explanation of the underlying facts, but this introduction is not the moment to do that. And I hope to be able to talk to you after this. When I do talk to you, I must warn you, sometimes it looks like I'm not looking at you, but my eye, this one, the right-hand side, doesn't work. So don't be alarmed if I try. Maybe you think I'm keeping an eye on somebody else, but no, I'm really looking at you. So that's what I wanted to warn you about. So thank you for your attention, and I hope to be talking to you later. Thank you.
Thank Jed and Juanita for facilitating this event. As you know, I'm Sandy Cross, and I live in Calvin for the past 12 years, and I own and operate my own business here as well. As I was involved with the rec committee for 7 years, and the past 5 years I've been on council, the last few years have been very challenging with issues that I would have never expected, like the COVID. How do we keep taxes down and provide the best possible service to our residents? Calvin is at a disadvantage as little commercial businesses and less government funding each year, coupled with the downloading of higher levies. We all don't want to pay more taxes, but how do we cover these increasing expenditures and costs? This is the challenge. Another one of council's most pressing priorities is rebuilding relationships and partnerships and ensuring that the community as a whole is working together progressively and advancing the municipality. I did not expect one of the hardest issues and challenges has been retaining and attracting qualified administration employees for the municipality. I acknowledge that without these key people in place within the municipality, it is at a standstill. We need to increase our tax base and attract more tourism and new businesses so that we have more people to share the costs in providing the quality of services that Calvin is well known for. Council as a whole needs to make this a priority, to formalize and plan based on facts and execute the plan. How do we support new and existing businesses in Calvin? We need to check in and on what is working and what is not working and why is it not working. We need a formal plan for how we promote and market Calvin now and for the future. This means we need to come together as a community and participate actively, engaging with building a realistic strategic plan that is both achievable and sustainable. And for it to be at the lowest cost for the taxpayers. But in the same time, we need to respect the way of life that we have all chosen to have living here. We need to advocate for our seniors as well as plan for our future for our children. We cannot do this without formal plans, formal actions, and formal approaches to all levels of government for cash support. We need to plan and we need to execute. I'm committed to Calvin. I'm committed to working hard and advocating for what Calvin needs to move forward and to build a stronger community. I look forward to working with council as a team and to bring forth this action. Thank you.
My name is Courtney Desjardins. First off, I want to thank Jed and Juanita for setting this up and giving us an opportunity to meet more people of our great community. And second, I want to thank all of you for coming and taking an interest in our town. Only by working together can we actually make a difference and be happy together. I haven't always lived in Calvin, but it has always been dear to me. Some of my earliest memories are of summers spent here with family, and I've made many more since moving here. As great as any place is, there are always things to improve. I'd like to make the citizens of Calvin feel more unified and involved in our town. I want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to share ideas and opinions on how our town should be managed. Whew. No one should be feeling like they aren't being heard. This is a democracy. You choose who you want speaking for you, but it shouldn't end there. You should have a continuous say on what each policy is and what your opinions on them are. Elected officials need to keep in touch with the people who voted for them and need to be held accountable for what they do with the power that's given to them. I may not know everyone and everything, but I'm willing to listen and learn. I hope to get to speak to everyone tonight, but feel free to text me, email me, come visit me, whatever. I'm always available to talk to. Thank you so much for your consideration, and I hope to speak more to you later.
Hello. Okay, I'm gonna hold the microphone. Are you ready? All right. Thanks, Jed and Juanita, for organizing and everyone attending tonight. Good evening, Calvin. There are a lot of issues currently in Calvin politics, but the most important thing that needs to be solved is the communication issue. From the first day I got involved in municipal politics here in Calvin 4 years ago, you can see that staff and council were not communicating well. Working for a municipality, whether it's on the roads crew, as a landfill attendant, volunteer firefighter, on council, or in the office as an administrator, is a unique and challenging job. The only way it works successfully is when everyone is communicating. And when everyone understands our common goal is to serve the ratepayers. If elected to council, I will push for changes to the code of conduct that does not prevent communication, but instead improves it. I will look to make changes that make it easier for staff and residents to voice concerns without the only option being divisive and expensive integrity investigations. I will advocate for council to take back its authority that was given to EFRM for hiring and firing. I will make other small changes like deleting the paragraph in the firefighter conduct policy that states firefighters are not to publicly criticize individual members of council. They are, after all, just volunteers and members of the community. There are many small changes that can be made to improve communication, and by working together, we can fix this major issue. I would like to highlight one more very important thing about this election. This election is a choice about the future direction of the municipality. Over the last 2 years, we've seen huge changes in our policies and bylaws. There has been an effort led by E4M and supported by Mayor Pennell to make us standardize with other municipalities. This is big city politics approach. The other direction we can choose is one where we have policies and bylaws that are specific to Calvin and match our unique history, rural lifestyle we all enjoy. This is a direction that candidate for Mayor Richard Gould supports. This new direction of creating policies and bylaws that are specific to Calvin and not simply taking what others have done in similar municipalities will bring us together and unify us, make us unique. We are all proud to live in Calvin and want to be separate and unique community. I'm dedicated to the task of fixing the fire department, fixing the staffing issues, and simply working hard for the ratepayers of Calvin. My focus will not be on regulating your private property, but instead on 3 major pillars in the municipality: landfill, roads, and emergency services. I'm asking you to vote Dean Grant for council and Richard Gould for mayor. Thank you.
Ready? Okay, my name is Bill Barton, and I've sent out a mailer to every resident, so you should know a little bit about me. My vision for the future of Calvin Township is one of a responsible team and openness for the betterment of the community. Today's society looks upon individual rights as being very important, but if those individual rights impact on the community as a whole, then there's got to be a decision made. Today I went to the dump. Mars was by himself. How come? Can't get a student to work with him, or one of the people that are looking for work to work with them. You know, I mean, those are little things in the community that have to be addressed. The future of the town has got a lot of controversy to overcome, and they're costing us as taxpayers a ton of money. There's no foreseeable end to that either under the current regime. And I don't mean necessarily the council or the E4M, or everybody hates E4M if you're on Calvin Convo, but there's a lot of people in this township that don't get Calvin and Convo, that don't go on Facebook. I talked to a family today, they don't have internet service where they live. They don't have phone service. So if they aren't getting all this message, that's why I mailed that thing out to everybody in the township, so everybody get the same message. And the same with Dan's questions on the internet. I'm going to put my responses on the internet to the ones that aren't here tonight, and the ones that are here tonight, they'll have to pass those information along. I lost my timer. The town clerk, as mentioned, is a pivotal role and as a priority to be replaced. I can't say too much about the Calvin Fire Department, but Dean was our chief, still a member and respected member of the fire department, and there is no true leader to replace him. As much aligned as E4M is, they were not involved in the decision to replace him. Dan Maxwell asked about several things about tonight, and I think I'm going to go way over my time.
You got about a minute left.
Got a minute left, so.
Do what you can.
The monthly report's ridiculous that they've been eliminated. I think that's so they can hide their money. I don't know who Jake from Summit PCG is, so I can't really comment on that. The election process should have it was supposed to have an in-person voting option. Too late to change it now, but for the integrity of the election, it should be used in the future and have only phone and internet as an option.
Yes.
The loss of the councillors and employees, I think there's only 2 or 3 left right now. As you probably know, Teresa quit. So then there's a lot of things they can't talk about because of privacy and disclosure, confidentiality, regulations that they can't breach. So unless they come forward, we have no opinion, or no option but to, we have no proof that there was a toxic work environment, although seems to be the common opinion of the township. And the retroactive pay raise is a source point. The pay raise is probably justified, but why in God's name did they ever bring it back to January other than to piss off the township?
Yeah.
No, they're having for it sent out last week. So I can't speak to the guy who's supposed to be doing it because we don't have him yet. So thanks for your time, and I hope you vote for me.
Oh, yeah. All in one room. Haven't seen my friends and neighbors for too long. Just wanted to let you know, my name's Heather Olmstead. I'm one of 6 generations that live here in Calvin Township. And I like to speak. When making my way around our township, I discovered many people didn't know their electoral system has been changed or that this meeting existed. I've endeavored to inform everyone of the changes and tried to check if their names were on the list. Living in Northern Ontario, we've learned that our cell phone, hydro, and internet services are lackluster, to say the least. I believe we can change this. By working with our neighboring communities, we can express to higher levels of government how very real our needs are. During the pandemic, children and adults were expected to work from home. Adults, very difficult when we have minimal broadband. On many levels, we missed the boat, and I want to work on making our community whole again. Working together for a common good. Accessibility to our resources, such as the community center, ball fields, and most importantly, meetings. I don't believe we need special delegations to speak at meetings, and I believe that Calvin has common goals. We can prosper and hand our children and grandchildren something our ancestors worked on not so long ago. Another issue is service delivery. Our municipal hall has been plagued with so much upheaval, I wish to stabilize that. Next, reduce the cost. For example, Castle Home. This is an issue that's gone on for far too long, and in the not too distant future, we won't have the pipelines to subsidize our tax bills. Reducing costs for services and other avenues need to be investigated. I believe with strong leadership and common goals, Calvin will be whole again. As most of you know, I want transparency. Thank you.
For coming out and showing up. Your presence shows that you care about this community. I want to thank the other candidates as well, regardless of the outcome of the election. By stepping up, you're showing your care and concern about what's going on for the community. I also want to thank the outgoing council as well for their time served. All of you are standing for re-election, and I wish you luck. Being a leader in a leadership role is incredibly difficult. It's a very thankless job at the very best of times, and kudos to you for serving your full term. For those that don't know me, my name is Jeremy Rodgers. I lived in the municipality for just over 7 years now. I have a beautiful wife and 2 children, and I'm proud to call this place home. I have quite a diverse background. As a teen, I worked many summers picking tobacco and can appreciate the importance of farmland in a rural community. After high school, I entered construction, and I was a laborer for a bricklayer. I was eventually apprenticed and became a tradesperson. I did that for many years, and I still take on the odd project today. Prior to moving to Calvin, I joined Ontario Northland and was lucky enough to receive an apprenticeship with them. I became a rail car technician, and in 2020, I was appointed union president, overseeing the employees at the ONTC. In 2021, I was re-elected to hold the president of Unifor Local 103. As president of Unifor Local 103, I represent roughly 600 members in North Bay and surrounding areas. I represent both federal and provincial employees. I represent many different sectors: transportation, mining, gaming, hospitality, and a few more. I'm very familiar with federal and provincial legislation, labor codes, health and safety. I know what it's like to represent a mass amount of people. I also know what it's like to represent an individual as well. My strengths include contract negotiations, conflict resolution, and mediation. My success as a union president doesn't come from what I've done solely. My success comes from having a strong team around me. I sit on an executive board with 12 other people who I value their input, their ideas, and the reason we're so strong is because of this. We work together. We're one team. The municipality of Calvin needs us. The people need a council that can work together to achieve goals that the community desires. We need the council with the best interests of the taxpayers in mind. We need people without agendas, willing to work together and keep Calvin the place we fell in love with. The place we're proud to call home, the place we want our children to grow and our grandchildren to grow. I'm not afraid to engage in long-winded respectful disagreements if I believe in something. I'm not afraid to make difficult decisions if I feel it's the best for the township and the people, the taxpayers. Not having a political background, I can't promise I won't make mistakes, but I can promise I will be transparent, I will be open, I will be honest. I can promise the taxpayers I'll have the best interest in mind when making decisions on their behalf, and I'll have an open door. I may not know all of you, but I'd like to get to know all of you. So thank you for the opportunity, and I hope come election day I can get your votes.
My name is Christine, and with your support, I would like to continue serving Calvin Township as one of your councillors. I came to council late in the last rotation and have enjoyed working with the current council members and serving the township. My husband and I moved to Calvin 22 years ago. We've been active in the community, volunteering with the Recreation Committee, baseball leagues for the kids, dinner and jams, in the kitchen serving or doing dishes. The term small community does not reflect the passion or the love the people here feel for their township. But the township is growing quickly. With the advent of COVID, we have had the challenges of changing roles and policies to adjust to. A lot of the folks that live here are from here, but a growing number are moving into our community to experience all that we've known for years. The quiet, nature, fishing, camping, trails to ski, ride, or walk on, and the sense of community that we strive to foster. I do not believe that because you've lived here all your life, that makes you any better equipped to lead the township than some of us transplants. With growth must come change, as the infrastructure to sustain the growth needs to grow and change as well. Most people are resistant to change as they believe that it will not be the same old policy, bylaw, or level of service that will deteriorate. But that is the definition of change: to take something of the same kind and to grow or change it to make it better or newer. Now, I know that not everyone will agree with the change. As I said before, people are resistant to change. But if you refuse to give it a chance, then you are rejecting the chance that it could be great. Now, there are people that will say that it worked fine before, and those people may be correct in that it worked fine for them, but not necessarily the rest of the community. Our job as council is to ensure that it works for everyone, not just a few. This is what myself and the rest of this council brings to the table. We are focused on the whole of the community, not the few of the community. I want Calvin to be for everyone who has decided to make this great community their home. I believe that current council is on track to continue to make this community great for everyone that wishes to live and prosper here. I would like to thank all of you for taking the time to come out to meet with us. I hope we can clarify some of the issues facing the township and come to a better understanding of how to proceed in the coming months. I would like to remind you that Calvin is better when we work together and with a positive attitude from all involved in the solution. Together we can accomplish great things. Calvin deserves to have its councillors working for all of the township. I hope I can count on your vote so that I may continue to work for this community and promote integrity, equality, and fairness for everyone. Thank you again to Jed and Juanita for hosting this, and thank you all for coming.